Hi everyone. Let's trace some code with nested loops. If I want to know how many times A and B and C print, I have to be able to imagine for each of these loops, what does it look like as the code is running? Where does the repetition happen? And what happens when you have for loops inside of other for loops, when they're nested? So let's start by just noticing what is inside other for loops. So this for loop, you can see everything's indented. And you can also see this opening brace matches with that closing brace. So let's add some lines that show how everything matches. All right. So if I want to know how many times A prints, I'm noticing that A happens after all of this looping up here. So none of this code is really relevant to the question, how many times does A repeat? It's like I will be 1, I'll do some stuff up here, and then I'll print A. And then we go back up, and then I will be 2. And then it'll do some stuff here, and I'll print A. And then I will be 3, and it'll do some stuff, and I'll print A. So I'm going to print A for each repetition of this outer loop. How many times does it repeat? It looks like I start at 1 and go up to 5, but it's including 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 times. So A should print 5 times. Okay, let's take a look at B. So B is here inside this J loop. So in the outer loop, when I is 1, when I hit this loop, J is going to go from 1 up to 5. So J will print B, and then it'll print B again, and then it'll print B again, as the J values go from 1 to 5. So when I is 1, J goes from 1 to 5, which is 5 repetitions of B. So let's say we're done with all that. We'll print A, go down here, and go back up. And now I is 2. So when I is 2, J is going to go from 1 to 5 also, because if I is 2, I reset J back to 1. And the whole time that I is 2, I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that prints B another 5 times. When I is 3, I know the same thing is going to happen. And the same thing when I is 4, and the same thing when I is 5. Okay, so let's think about this. The outer loop repeated 5 times. This inner loop with J is repeating 5 times for each one of the outer loops. So that's why we have 5 times for I equals 1, 5 times when I equals 2, 5 times when I equals 3, and so on. So there's 5 of these. So the answer for B is I'm doing something that loops 5 times, but I'm doing that itself 5 times. So I'm doing it 25 times total. Okay, what about C? So C is happening inside this last nested loop. So I already know that I'm going to hit this place in the code 25 times. I know that because B was running 25 times. So if I had no looping here, if I just had C, C would also be printing 25 times. But for each of those 25 times, I'm going to print it out several more times. So let's think about how many repeats this has. Here, K is going to be 0, but then it goes up by 5. So then it'll be 5, then it'll be 10, and then it will be 15. And because K can be equal to 15, I know I'm doing 1, 2, 3, 4 repetitions. So this is going to repeat 4 times. And I'm doing those 4 repetitions every single time I hit that loop. And I'm hitting that loop 25 times. So what that tells me is that the total number of loops should be 4 times 25, or 100.